Hi, I want to speak to those of you who have recently lost your job in the federal government or elsewhere, or expect that to be happening soon. And that is a most important step that you should be taking right now. It's to document your work experience while it is still fresh in your mind. Sit down and document as much of it as possible, focusing especially on milestone moments, whether they're positive or negative, anytime you might have learned something or considered it significant, because essentially you are writing the script for a future interview when someone says, tell me about a time at work when X happened. So take it from me, who took a long career break, and I didn't do this early on. It is much easier to write this down now when it's fresh in your mind than have to recreate it from memory later. Hi, I have another message for those of you who have recently lost your job in the federal government or elsewhere, or are expecting to have that happen soon. And this is another tip that you should do right now while your experience is fresh in your mind. And the idea is to list out your work network. People you admire, bosses, other senior people, peers in your organization, even people who are junior to you, people who report to you, people whom you mentor, or people who are junior to you who you just know. Because if you end up on extended career break, those people will be moving up while you've been out of the workforce, and may be in a position to open a door for you later on. And while you're at it, include those who are outside of work or people at work who might have been vendors or customers, because you never know who will connect you with your next job opportunity when you're ready to return, which may be right away, maybe in a little bit. And you want to make sure that you have all of these contacts written out in an organized way now while you're remembering all of them because it's fresh in your mind. Hi, everyone. This is tip number 3 for those of you who have been laid off by the federal government or elsewhere, or are expecting that to happen soon. And that has to do with certifications, credentials, and licenses. Do not let them expire. Make sure that you're tracking them and that you pay the fees, you take the continuing education, and find out if there are any special provisions for sabbaticals or other types of hiatus, because it is much harder to start all over and get yourself licensed from scratch versus renewing that license year by year. So make sure that you're carefully tracking all of those and make it easier on yourself by renewing instead of starting all over again. This is tip number 4 for those of you who have been recently laid off by the federal government or elsewhere and are figuring out what's next. One of the worst parts of being laid off is the isolation of it. So if you can identify other people with whom you worked, if you were laid off as a group, or other people who are currently job seeking, then it's a great idea to connect with them and have what we call a relaunch buddy or a relaunch group of people who are going to meet on a regular basis, not only to hold each other accountable and to keep you on pace with what goals that you set for yourself, but also to be a sounding board, to be a source of support, and to keep the process from being too isolating. And people who look to job seek or relaunch their careers in groups often have more success quicker than those who don't. And that's in part because if you say that I've set these 3 goals for myself, then by the following week, you're going to talk about what you have done in as far as setting those goals and reaching them or not, then you're much more likely to be accountable and move forward and do that than if you're on your own where maybe something comes up and you get delayed for a few weeks. Going about this process with another person or a group of people is highly recommended and something you want to set up for yourself as soon as possible. Hi, everyone. Here's tip number 5 for people who have been laid off by the federal government or elsewhere or expect that to happen soon. Tip number 5 is to use LinkedIn. I know that you hear it all over the place, but establish or update your profile on LinkedIn. You can do it without letting it get too overwhelming. There are plenty of courses and guides out there that are free that are offered by LinkedIn itself. You can do a search to identify those easily. So the idea is once you have this updated LinkedIn profile, you want to be reaching out to people who are in your network. That was from a past tip that we have given to you. And also, you're going to want to check your content a few days a week or even every day if you can, and repost articles that are of interest. Comment on someone else's post if they're posting on something that's in your field. And in a separate tip, we're going to give you advice on exactly what to say when you're reaching out to people from the past, maybe people you haven't been in touch with for a while. But certainly right now, in the moment, update your profile and reach out to people, peers, people who are senior to you, people who are junior to you, people who you know in your personal life, people who are maybe vendors or customers, and reach out to connect with them. Send a connection request. Don't be afraid to do it. Don't worry that they will somehow not respond positively to it. Just reach out and start to build your profile and use LinkedIn as much as possible. It's a tremendous tool for job seeking when it's used in conjunction with other strategies, and we'll talk to you more about those.